Hello and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the editorial director at Worn and Wound. Thank you for tuning in once again to another episode of the podcast. I'm joined today by two of my colleagues. We've got Zach Weiss coming into us from, the background again. Is this another creation of your own?
Oh, yeah.
Zach? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah. It's excellent. We've got some.
It's like Cyberwave Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. The Pee-wee's Playhouse vibe is coming through for sure. Thank you for coming on the pod again, Zach. We've also got returning to the pod, Ed Jelley, Worn and Wound contributor. Ed, it looks like you're coming to us from the woods somewhere.
From the woods. Yep.
Yeah.
Big wooded path. Yeah. It's an original photo.
I am not taking advantage of these
disaster
backgrounds that are available to us in our virtual podcast recordings. I'm just coming to you from my home. You can see my air fryer and my trash can in the background of my
little
stereo.
cordless vacuum. Keeping it
clean.
clean.
I've got all kinds of things to keep my apartment clean back there. I swear to God, I actually use them. You can't see the floors, but they're spick and span. Today, we're going to be talking about some watches that we've had in for review. Just kind of like, we're going to go around the horn a couple of times. We've got we've had a bounty of new, not all new, some kind of, catalog watches that have been in for review over the last few months. This is sort of like the summer doldrums for the watch industry. The watch industry kind of goes to sleep in the summertime. So it's a good opportunity to get some watches in for review because their brands are not always like bugging us to send them back all the time because they're on vacation in July and August. So we've just had an influx of review pieces. So we're going to talk about some that have already made it to the site, some that are coming to the site, and it'll just be a good way to catch up on some first impressions on watches that we've sampled. Before we do that, let's do a wrist check. Ed, let's start with you. What are you wearing today?
I am wearing the DWC Terra in titanium on the Amazon special comfortable strap. It's like pajamas for your wrist.
You came prepared. This is one of the watches that we are going to discuss, review in progress on the DWC
Getting there.
Terra. Yeah, it had kind of a viral moment earlier. Was it the summer when that watch kind of like hit?
There were like a couple of waves, and they keep, I don't know, we'll go with the water thing. They keep making a splash. So whatever, this was the titanium anniversary edition, and then there's also a steel, just regular edition.
All right. Well, We'll get into that in more detail once we start talking about that watch. We'll get into the weeds a little bit ahead of your review on the Terra. Zach, what about you? What are you wearing today?
Got on the Habring Irwin Pilot.
Habring Irwin Pilot. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
My jump seconds.
Yeah. Love a deadbeat seconds complication. I'm wearing my Otsuka Lotec No. 8 today. I've been wearing this a lot. I really like it. Zach, you wrote a review about this watch and a video as well. That might actually be a good place to start. Speaking of recent reviews, what about this watch? I would love to also like talk a little bit about, but like summarize your like review for this watch a little bit, just like kind of like high level. Like what makes the No. 8 like really special to you?
I feel like with a watch like the No. 8, it's almost like easier to say what doesn't make it. No, that doesn't work. Like it's so different. I was going to say like what doesn't make it, but it's special in every way, I guess is like the thing. And so it's like you can point at almost anything on the watch and be like, this is unique. This is an interesting idea. This is, so like it's a real like kind of treasure trove, if you will, especially for, sort of, maybe jaded watch collectors as we might be at this point, or if I sometimes find myself, I'm kind of tired of different trends and things like that, or I've had them, or I have them. Like I have my fill of certain things. I don't need them anymore. Something like this comes along and it's just completely novel. And either you like it or you don't. And obviously, I think, I like the aesthetic of it, but even more so with this one, I like the complications, and it's the jump hour regulator with retrograde, very unique combination of complications there. And there's just a lot that goes into this watch. It's the hype is real and for a reason on this brand.
It's really interesting to kind of like read through the comments on your on the review on YouTube, especially. there's a lot of a lot of comments about like, the price and sort of like the industrial sort of like nature that, I mean, the price is what it is. Like there are no comps, for a watch like this. So it's kind of like they can sort of price it at like whatever they want, really. But I really do love the aesthetic of it and the way that like it ties into all the other Otsuka Lotec watches. It's this little like kind of like design family made by this, like very clearly coming from the mind of one person. And I love the kind of like brand identity that they're sort of like carving out. I find that I'm wearing the watch like a lot, like I'm wearing it more than the number 5 that I picked up last year. And that could be just like recency bias because it's still a new acquisition for me, but like I really do find it to be like quite wearable and comfortable, and like it's just a very different experience. So that's something that you talk about a lot and in your reviews is like looking for like a different experience as a collector, and like this is about as different as I've had, because I said, there are no comps for it.
I mean, even it's not round. You can start there. It's like there's just like nothing about it that I really have anything in my watch box that makes this, even the number 7.5, which I have, lucky to also have another Otsuka Lotec. It is very different from that, even if, like you're saying, you can see that it's from the same mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool watch. We'll link back to the review of the Otsuka Lotec, both the video review and the review on the blog. It's a good read. All right, let's get into some of the newer reviews that we're all kind of like working through. Ed, I want to start with you. Let's go right back to the DWC Terra. Give us kind of like the high level overview of like what this watch is for people who might have like might not have caught it,
in case you missed it.
Yeah, in case you missed it. Yeah.
The DWC Terra is a Delhi watch company out of India. Terra, Earth, so it's their take on a field watch, and I think this kind of broke the internet a little bit because it's so different, and we're talking about different stuff here. It's like pretty much a flat slab of titanium. It looks like they use like an EDM wire cut machine to just like carve out the case shape. And it's unapologetically rectangular. It's got a small dial, quartz movement, nice crystal, unscrewable case back, so you can change the battery in there. But when you do the currency exchange, it's only like $45. Yeah. I mean, you're going to get smacked with America tariffs for funsies. But the starting price, as noted on the internet with a direct conversion, is like under $50, and that is firmly in G-Shock territory. So
I mean, that's under G-Shock territory.
Yeah,
these
uncertain times.
Talking almost Casio F91 territory there.
Yeah, those are actually more expensive than I thought they were. I think they're like up to like $27 or something.
Yeah, they've gone up over the years.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, so it's just kind of crazy because it doesn't look like anything else. It's inspired by a carabiner. So it's got these like interesting little channels cut into it that you can slip a strap through. And there's no curvature when you look at the case from the side. It's just flat. And the size of it allows it to actually wear pretty decent on your wrist. So I've been kind of tooling around with this one, and it's pretty cool.
It's really funny. I actually haven't really... I've seen a lot of top-down photos of these.
Yeah.
I kind of just like left it at that. I think in my mind, I assumed it was like a really thin thing, but it's got some chunk to it in kind of a cool way.
Definitely different.
Super neat. It's cool that this caught on and this brand is blown up. But like this is crazy. So on their website, pre-order window open for 72 hours or until 30,000 units are sold. Now that is confidence.
Think they had like over 5,000 people like waiting, like they did like a Ticketmaster style online queue to buy the recent titanium limited edition, and they had like thousands of people waiting to get it, and it's just nuts that a small operation over there is seeing this kind of demand. But like, when you take advantage of the currency conversion there, it's like you can't get anything cool for that, even if you don't wear it all the time. Like, it's just a cool thing to have. And then there's also like a degree of like, oh my gosh, you got one of those? Like if you post it on Instagram. So like there's like a bit of hype going around, and it's just a cool little watch that like just kind of came out of nowhere. And I'm just kind of enjoying them.
So it reminds me, like, the price point feels a lot like the days where you could get like a Seiko SNK or whatever on Amazon for like, under $100. Just like kind of like impulse buy one of those. And, there's been so much talk, on this podcast and amongst ourselves and on the internet about like the lack of a truly affordable kind of like entry level watch for enthusiasts. And I mean, this feels like this kind of like reminds me of that. I don't know if this is like an entry level. This is like a really niche.
Yeah,
thing,
like you're not going to go to like Kohl's and grab a Timex. What is it? The Expedition. Those were super fun. That kind of reminds me of that. Like the Field Watch Quartz, like cheap. You could grab a couple of them, but this kind of got hype trained into oblivion and not super attainable.
Yeah. So now. What's your understanding of like how that will resolve itself? Are they just going to keep making them with this sort of like same style of release, or like how's that going to play out?
I think they're just in kind of a bit of a figure it out as we go thing right now, because I don't think they expected it to go so crazy. And they're also not shipping to the United States because of tariffs and international shipping being such a joy. So to get one of these, you've got to be not here, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. You see they're pretty active on like Reddit and stuff. So if you search around for the watch, you can see some comments from the brand directly that they're just trying to do their thing.
Are these trading over retail price, like on the secondary market?
Yeah, quite a large amount sometimes too. I don't know if
several $100s.
Yeah, I've seen like a $1,200 listing. Yeah, but who knows if that's like let's put a price out there and see if it works. That doesn't mean they sold for that, but to go from sub $100 to 4 to 12x is like kind of wild for ultimately like a little Miyota quartz,
right?
In a little stainless steel case and just a crystal. It's just very simple, and that's cool.
Do you feel like you're like getting your money's worth at the retail price? Like, is that, I mean,
I feel like the value is like well beyond what they're charging. And I think that they could very easily, I don't know their market. Maybe they have like a strong Indian market where, the luxury market might not have as much room to flourish, where is a more price sensitive market, I'm sure, and I think they want to be attainable. Their other models are not anything. They're cool. They have a couple other watches, but they're not priced for the Western market. Like I see like something like this, I think could very easily be like a 179 to like 249 with the right marketing behind it here for us. So just based on how unique it is in itself, like we're on the square unique watch talk here. It's interesting.
And they're, I assume made in China. Are they made in India?
I believe they're made in India.
Okay.
It doesn't say.
Amazing. Yeah, just even at $45, that's just crazy considering, it's one thing, the F91, the example we used before, that's a watch that's been made for like 40, 50 years by one of the largest companies. Like they can mass produce it in a way that a brand like DWC is certainly not, and like, so, that's the economies of scale aspect of it doesn't apply so much. 30,000, if they actually hit that, is not insubstantial, but it's not 30 million or whatever that Casio is probably made of those watches.
Yeah.
So,
and then, just popping something like the F91 on Amazon, and then they're probably fulfilling hundreds, if not thousands of those a month just on autopilot.
Yeah, exactly. So like, to even make a margin for them on $45, what it is, like it's just wild that this could even be made and that could work. Like you're saying 175, like that to me sounds like a base price for a well-machined,
you want to make margin on it. I think like the fact that there is not a lot going on with the geometry of the case, which I think is purposeful. Mm-hmm. They're probably able to just knock these cases out. Like, I don't even know if they're machined. Again, it looks like, since it's a flat bar stock, and on the titanium one, it has like that rippling texture that looks like it's just cut straight from like a sheet. And like I know with Tactile Turn, who I work for, we had an EDM wire machine, and like you could just cut stuff out when we were doing knives. You can just make these flat blanks relatively quickly and easily. And like, the sandblasted finish, you just throw in a sandblaster or tumble it, stick in a tumbler and pull them out when they're done. It's a pretty interesting use of manufacturing and components to get something that's simple but still kind of hits.
Yeah.
Super cool. It's an interesting watch. And I'm on the Jelley Watch Company website right now, and I'm looking at their other watches, and they have a bunch of watches, and many of them are sold out. And I'm wondering if that's like a knock-on effect of the popularity of this watch. Like people are, like seeking out other watches from this brand and buying them because they're like, everything's like relatively affordable. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just find it very interesting. Like India is obviously like a huge market, and like they have a watch industry there, but it's not like a
so yeah, if you go to their About Us page, it says the most common question we get is why our watches are never in stock. And to give you an honest answer, we are still quite a young company that faces cash flow restrictions. Given the long production cycle of a watch, it's tough to maintain stock and release new designs as well. So to help answer the question, this is our launch schedule, and they go to kind of list it out for the next couple weeks. So
interesting. Yeah.
Pretty cool. I think they're just like a smaller brand just trying to make it in the world, and it looks like they're doing a pretty good job. But with increase in orders comes an increase in issues that may arise. More money, more problems. Say that for nothing, because everything gets more complicated when you're suddenly selling thousands instead of hundreds or dozens.
Are you speaking as the Apple Watch accessory kingpin that you've become?
Yes. Just starting from like onesie twosies to then up into quite more than onesie twosies, more than I thought. You're answering customer service emails all the time and processing returns and all sorts of other fun small business stuff that you didn't really know would be a thing, and then they are, and then you got to deal with them or close. So deal with them. It is.
Gotta deal with it. And did you just acquire this watch like through the website, like normal channels, or did you use a proxy I
had a back channel, an undisclosed back channel.
Okay.
That I will not talk about at this time.
All right.
Which sounds very mysterious, but it's not. I just don't want to blow up anybody's.
No. That's totally fine. You got to do what you got to do. That's
not any cool like watches of espionage stuff. Just like a couple of Instagram DMs and.
Yeah,
that was.
Well, listen, you don't have to get into it. We'll get that story behind.
I should have let the mystery be. I really should have just left it. It would have been way cooler. I made myself not cool. So sorry.
Very cool. It's cool that you have a couple of these and you're writing about them, and because I think it is like one of the most like discussed watches of the year.
Yeah, it's all over Instagram too. It's like a pretty quick way to get a lot of views on an Instagram post is to pop it in there too. But yeah, no, they'll be written out soon, and then we're working on a video component, so you get to see me in more detail discussing this. So
it's really like all anyone could ever want. So yeah.
This is, I mean, obviously the price point is different, but this sort of reminds me of like the Maritech mids when they came out.
Yeah, that's another good comp.
Whenever the hell that was, like over a decade ago. I had those come out now and been like the right price point. Like I feel like a watch like that would have done many, many times more numbers, but it was such like a smaller community back then. But just that sort of like really
go on CountyCom, those ones. That's what we're talking about. Yeah,
the CountyCom Maritech,
the CountyCom, and just
it was just like
website.
Ultimately stripped down. Not as stripped down as I'm actually really curious about how this is made. Like that now makes it much more interesting. Like if it was really designed and by way of the manufacturing, I feel like that is really an interesting story. The DWC. But like,
I'm going to do.
Regardless, there's just something.
Some journalism here, and you know what? Actually, I don't even have to, because if you stay on their homepage for long enough, you can see that they are being water jet cut. These cases are cut with a water jet. No, I don't know if there's a wire EDM in there, but we got a machine operator and just a couple little machining processes in there on a water jet cut flat stock metal. Super cool. But I'll see if I can get some more information for the impending review.
Very cool. Well, thanks, Ed, for sharing that. We look forward to the review. Obviously, we won't link to it because this podcast will be out before it's on the website, but we will anticipate it.
We'll give you something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's just a tease. Yeah. Just a tease. Zach, I wanted to talk to you about a review that you have coming very soon. This will be on the website within days of the publication of this podcast, and that you reviewed a Sinn, which is, obviously a core brand for us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the watch that you reviewed and what we can expect in that upcoming review?
Sure. So the watch is the Sinn 544.
That's right.
Now it's all okay. 544 RS. I was just looking at it, and then 544 sounded weird. 554 sounded kind of 544 RS. So this was sort of a surprise launch of theirs from this year. That it's just like it's like a classic simple Sinn. I feel like Sinn can go different directions. They can go super complicated, or they kind of go like super simple. And I feel like often, while their tech is super sexy, when they go very simple, it tends to be like the more popular of their sort of announcements. I think of the U50 from a couple of years ago being, that watch is not ultimately simple, but it's just, it's a reduced size of an iconic diver in their collection, iconic for Sinn. And it just was very successful because they just like made it more wearable. The 544 is like a new watch in the lineage of the 144, which is the 70s chronograph that has a striking resemblance to the Porsche Orfina. Apparently also came out at the same time. The rumors are that it was made by the same, case manufacturer that Helmut Sinn just basically contracted it. But unlike the Porsche Orfina, it was made fairly continuously for many, many decades and still is. It's like their barrel-shaped automotive chronograph. And in the 90s, they released a model called the 244. You could tell I was reading about this all recently because I actually know this, which was I think Lothar Schmidt's first watch when he joined or took over Sinn. Was the first watch released under his his ownership, tutorship. And that one was basically the same case design, but a 36 millimeter chronometer with some anti-magnetic properties. So sort of like, this sort of field watch take on that design. And that was made for a while and then stopped. And the 544 is very, very, very similar to that watch, but 38.5 millimeters. So a little bit sized up, which given the shape of that case, as charming as I think a 36 diameter might be, the lug to lug on these watches is incredibly short. So at 36 would be in a very, very, very tiny watch. So I think this size up actually just makes sense. It's a very, very wearable size. And yeah, and that's kind of like it. And it's like there's not like that much to talk about this watch, which is kind of what's nice about it. It's like stripped down. I think I say stripped down to almost like a frustrating level, but in a good way. Like they really are able to resist putting extra things on their watches. And I feel like it's just like, it must be some sort of like German sort of like restraint or something, if it feels like it. Whereas there's no crosshairs, there's no extra text on the dial, there's none of the things that I might have wanted thrown in there myself, except for the red hand, which is optional. And yeah, it's just like as a watch that goes alongside of their other simpler watches. There's the 556, there's the 240, there's there's kind of like three-hander entry-level models. Like this is just a new way in, and it's very nice. I don't know if I'd pick it over some of those other watches if I were like going for like my first Sinn kind of a thing. Like I still think the 556 might be a more appealing watch because it has like more finishing to it and stuff like that. But it's super nice. It's a nice, I think, if you want a change from the 556, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. I know Ed, do you have the 856 still?
No, I got rid of it. I actually had to think for a second there. You scared me. No, I had the 856 non-UTC. So it was like the beefed up, tegimented with the gas fill and the little pill to let you know if moisture has gotten inside. That was cool. That was like a kind of like the, it was the 556, but beefed up. Yeah, no, I don't have it anymore. I've moved that one on, unfortunately. I do miss it sometimes though. That was like, it was like so no BS that like it almost like wasn't fun to wear anymore, but that was part of the appeal. Like the personality was that it had no personality, like a Daria situation,
Daria,
good reference.
Jeez, very monotone, but like people watched it, people relate.
But that is sort of somehow the appeal of some Sinns. It's hard to explain. It's like they're severe and, restrained and just like
Purposeful.
formal in a way.
Yeah.
And I will say I've had more Sinns probably come and go from my collection than most other brands, but I always like have a Sinn. Like I have a 256 right now, which is one of the more personality filled Sinns, I'd say, because it's like got the acrylic crystal. It looks like the 156, but it's, so maybe that ultimately is why it'll be a keeper. But yeah, I don't know, the 544. It's interesting. It's an interesting watch.
The subhead on your review is that you've given it as a tool watch for minimalists, which I think like really kind of like boils it down to like what we're talking about here. It's like it's extremely stripped down and doesn't really have like much of a personality of its own, but that's kind of the point. It's sort of
well, it's got the RS, it's got the red seconds, right? That's what the RS is for. I mean, that's the big feature. Is you got the red seconds,
party dress with the red
if you want, like that was like I feel like the RS is almost like breaking the rules. Like you should probably, if you're gonna go for it, actually get the white hand that way. Or there's no temptation for color or fun.
Don't have any fun. Like really, don't be having too much fun.
It's funny. Like I didn't really dive into the minimalist thing in the article too much, other than what I've just said now. But like if you're looking at or maybe comparing it with watches that are often called minimalist, like whether that's a Moser without any markers on the dial, or that's something like a Unimatic wears, or that kind of like simple line style watch, which is often called minimalist, but it's really kind of like a fashion statement of minimalism.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
this is minimalist
this
because
is like
it's function first.
It's sparse. It's like, almost brutalist in that way. It's like stripped out of its nature. I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting watch.
Do you think so the retail price on this watch is $2,170? Do you think that's a reasonable price for
yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable in our current environment. It's like, and I think the context there is that it is Sinn, that it is German made, that it is obviously very well made because it is Sinn. It sits above the 156, but that kind of also makes sense because the 156 is not a new watch, so it's been incrementally increased in price rather than coming out new. It also uses the newer Sellita SW200 movements with 65-hour power reserve. There's certainly a lot of competition, and you can get a watch that's very similar, I think, in specs if you were just to run down a sheet for less. But I think that because it's Sinn, it does sit comfortably like under Tudor, but not far under Tudor, kind of. If that's like a, the next level up because of in-house movements and things of that nature.
Sure. Yeah. All right. That's the Sinn 544. Cool. It's a cool watch. So I love Sinn. I don't currently own a Sinn. I often think I should pick up a Sinn. This isn't like the flavor of Sinn that like necessarily appeals to me, but I think that it's a very smart release, I think, on their part, because I think the style watch does appeal to a lot of people, and I like the pricing does strike me as being like pretty competitive. It's for a brand of this stature to have a like one of their core. I think they're positioning it as like sort of like a core tool watch in their lineup, like under $3,000. Like that's pretty good. So yeah, the Sinn 544. That review is coming. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, it'll be live in just a couple of days. We're going live on Friday with that review. I've also had a bunch of watches in and out for review. I want to talk about a watch from, you mentioned Moser real briefly. So I will take the opportunity to connect Moser to Sinn, which is not something that most people ever would do, but we'll do it here. I had the Moser Pioneer 40 millimeter in, I think they call it Arctic Blue, in for review. It was on to me for like a month, so I spent a lot of time with that watch. I wore it to Chicago for our wind-up watch fair, and it was really kind of like my daily watch for several weeks. I had reviewed a larger Pioneer a few years ago. That watch has the standard size Pioneer when it was originally launched up until a couple years ago when the 40 was introduced was like 43 millimeters, and it was like a big 43 millimeters because case has a long lug to lug, and it is also like chunky thanks to this like really dramatically domed crystal, which is like part of the aesthetic kind of like hallmark of that that watch. And Moser's a brand that I have been sort of like really interested in and fascinated by, for a long time. Like they're sort of like the design language appeals to me. I love their use of color. I tend to like the way that they, at least in the past, have been a little bit more like irreverent as a brand. I like it when a brand has like a sense of humor about the watch industry. That's a very polarizing thing. A lot of people like do not like that, at all. And I think I respect that position. But I enjoy a brand that can kind of like poke fun at itself and poke fun at its, competitors and sort of the nature of the world that they, inhabit in Swiss luxury watchmaking. So I remember when I got the larger one a few years ago in review, like I really wanted to like it. And, I liked a lot of things about it. Like I liked the dial, and I sort of liked the way the brand was positioning it, but it was just like very, very hard to wear. And so I was quite interested in this 40 millimeter watch, and I'd like, handled them at like meetups and, at Watches and Wonders a handful of times, but I hadn't really like lived with one for, any extended period. So I was excited to get it. And I got to say, like, they really fixed every problem with the larger one by just shrinking it down and making it a little bit more wearable. It's actually a lot more wearable. It's a much better fitting case. It feels a lot more proportional. The dial is still great. I mean, obviously it's a matter of taste if you like the blue or the green or whatever, but I found the blue to be really quite beautiful. And it just like really struck me. And I've had this thought, a couple of times this year reviewing watches, kind of similarly with the Trafford Crossroads S that we've talked about on the podcast, a few times now. Like sometimes a watch just like needs to be the right size for it to really work. And this watch in 40 works incredibly well. And it really kind of illustrates how like poorly it works, frankly, at the larger size, which I tried to defend. I went back and I read my review of the early watch. I'm really trying to defend it. And I don't know how successful I was, but in the new review, I discuss how like this is the right size for this watch. The other interesting thing about the watch beyond just like the watch itself is also like where it finds like Moser in this moment. Like they're a brand that's like gone through a lot of changes, and like I don't think that they really are positioning themselves as that sort of like irreverent, kind of like a brand that's like poking fun at everyone anymore. They seem to have like really shifted gears. And the thing that I keep coming back to is the way that they have positioned themselves at Watches and Wonders. Like they're in the main hall this year and will presumably be next year and in future years as well. They left the Indies hall, and they're just sort of like seemingly a lot more ambitious and serious, I think, than they have been in the past. And I think that the 40 millimeter Pioneer is sort of like an example of that. It's a more conservative watch in a lot of ways. It's not as like big and bold and brash as the Pioneer that was, about 3 millimeters larger. And it seems to be going for a larger kind of like a more of a big tent approach. And that's an odd thing for a brand whose tagline is still very rare, which is sort of like a winking sort of tagline about their production and also like the appeal, I think, of these watches. So interesting watch. They're expensive. I think the retail price on the Pioneer 40 is something like $16,000. I don't think I'd want to buy one at that price. But I was just struck by how they fixed the case and how they and how it just works so much better in a smaller size. Zach, I think you and I have like pretty different opinions on Moser and sort of like how they like position themselves as like the kind of like Alfred E. Newman of the watch industry at times. Like, but I don't know. Did you have a chance to see this watch when it was in the office? Do you have any thoughts on it, or sort of like the way Moser has like evolved, even just in their like sort of like Watches and Wonders positioning, which I think is like really quite interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's like a lot to dig into there. Unfortunately, I didn't see this watch. I kind of wish I had, because your sort of gentle dismantling of the larger one. I mean, I would say I outright hated that watch.
Yeah. I remember you had a very strong reaction to it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sorry to anyone who owns that or whatever, but like nothing about this watch worked for me. To the to the point where what I'm really curious about is actually how the geometry and the finishing of the case of the smaller one works, because I didn't find it to be particularly good on the larger one. It's a very strange case that almost has sort of like unresolved sort of curves on the corners, and it's like, to me, it just did not work. And those little inlets on the side, like, it's just, I don't know. It's a confluence of things that aren't coming together correctly. It doesn't look high end to me. And then I find the language then of the dial to be kind of bland. And it's a tough one for me. I don't know what to say. The only real view of it I like is the case back, because the movements are absolutely stunning, which I think is kind of true across the board for Moser. So yeah, maybe the charm on this one just really needed to come through in person. And it just, so I'm still not on the side of the Pioneer as of right now. Yeah, I don't know. Moser's a weird brand, and I think I'm just like the person who doesn't get them, or whatever, for whatever reason. Their sense of humor back in the day, I didn't quite. I mean, I got it because it was blatant. It wasn't subtle humor. It was
right.
like, yeah,
definitely not.
It was like, that's the thing about it. It was like very on the sleeve kind of humor that it was just, whatever. And I think the real joke of it is that they made watches that were poking fun at things that still cost tens of thousands of dollars, and people got them and they're like, ha ha ha. And it's like, who's the joke really on now? I don't know.
Everybody but the brand, I think. It's just everybody.
And then, yeah, I mean, the repositioning of them, I think speaks pretty loudly about the brand's ambitions and the scale of it, which I also find interesting because, in my just meeting of collectors and talking to people online and what have you, like, I don't feel like I see that many Mosers in the wild here. So like, though they're growing a lot, I don't know their community as of yet, or like, which is, could just be speaking about me and the people I know more than anything, but like, it's not like it doesn't seem to support the scale of the brand as it seems to be positioning itself now. Which then you have the slogan "very rare," which I think is there's a little bit of like humor in there. It's also multiple meanings, and I think the meaning of rare in the sense of like hard to find is no longer the meaning there. It's more like rare as in distinguished or whatever, and it's yeah, I don't know. There's a lot here. There's a lot here. I will say, so we had in the office though. And I'm blanking on the name, the one that Kate looked at, or those models.
Yes, the streamliners. She reviewed the smaller streamliners, yeah.
Yeah, so we had, one of them was I was walking through our video area, and Liam had just been shooting them, so they were sitting out, and I put on what I thought was the smaller one, because it just looked much smaller than I remember these watches being, and I was like, this thing fits beautifully. Like, finally, like, this watch really just looks great. It feels great on my wrist. I was like, they did it. This smaller size. Turns out that was the 40. It wasn't the 36 or whatever. So it was just like the normal one. I just hadn't like put one on in a while. So yeah, that felt better to me than I remembered. But when I look at pictures of it, even that one, like, I don't feel like the dial matches the case on that watch. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. So
I'm quite fond of the Streamliner.
Rare. I don't like Moser.
Well, I mean, I think you make a good point about like not seeing them like in the wild. Like, I do know a few collectors who own Mosers, but like not at the the pace of like certain other indie brands that are kind of like in the same like price bracket, and like kind of like are going for a similar clientele. Like so I do wonder like who's actually buying the watches, like en masse, or like, not en masse, but like at any sort of scale. It's very interesting to me that like they really, for a long time, like they really leaned into the like the scarcity of it and the exclusivity, whether real or imagined, of it. And like now they're literally like, across the aisle from like Vacheron and Longa, at Watches and Wonders, and they want to be thought of in the same kind of like breath as those brands. And that's just like I don't know, it's very ambitious, and like it feels honestly like maybe a little bit premature or like wrong-headed. I don't know that that's like how I see Moser. Like, to me, there'll always be that kind of like brand that is kind of like thumbing their nose at everyone else, even if they're not, and even if they weren't successful in that. Like, that's sort of like their they imprinted on me in that way. And that's just not their image anymore. So I just find it fascinating to like see how they've evolved. Ed, I don't know that I've ever had a conversation with you about Moser, but this is your opportunity.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Big Moser guy. Have several.
So you're the one.
No, I haven't bought any Mosers. I have not supported their rise to ultra luxury personally. They're fine. They're not really for me. I'm not like a Mosery kind of guy. I don't know. To me, like you gotta have like a suit, probably no tie. I feel like it's like it's not very casual. You know what I mean? Like it's very European. You know, I'm an American guy over here. It just reads as like something that's like, again, not my world. And I can respect them from a distance, but I don't even think I've ever handled one. I like their dial work. I think some of the stuff that they experiment with is cool, but like, again, it's one of those like, you know, when you see a car driving by that like you'll never own. You're just like, yeah, that's cool. Good for them. That's the long and short of it. I don't have. I wasn't deeply disturbed by them like Zach.
Deeply disturbed. I don't know. You know.
No, they're. I want to see one in person, but you know the case geometry is weird. I don't know if that's in a good way or not. I mean, they got the crazy kind of bracelets on the streamliners. You know, it's a lot of open dial. I think like they're more interesting ones like the Pioneer Flying Hours White Fume. That's like I think that's a pretty sharp looking watch.
Yeah.
But again, like it's very rare, so I'm probably not gonna see that.
You're not gonna run into it, yeah.
I mean, we've had several come through the Warner Mount offices in the last few months. So like they haven't been
can we
so
challenge
rare.
them on the very rare? I mean,
this is actually interesting. So I remember hearing this on the Hodinkee podcast when they were talking about those like Morgan Stanley watch, you know, annual reports.
Yes,
that the guy puts those together. That Moser, I think, broke over 100 million in revenue last year, and now I'm actually seeing there's a Reddit thread that refers to a Watch Pro article from a couple months ago, where they're saying that they're producing 10,000 watches per year, which is, you know, that's double Longa, but that's a lot less than some of the
Longa's
other.
Like 5,000 or 6,000. So like that's a significant, outpacing. That's
well, I mean, what's their average? You know, quick calculator: 100 million divided by average selling price of like 18,000 is like 5,500 ish watches. And if they're doing,
I didn't know there was going to be math on the exam, but like the thing with the price points here, the way these average out is like these brands are making like watches with like tourbillons and things that are selling for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So like, and they also make like a $16,000 watch. So like, there's a huge
gem set bracelets,
huge range there. So it's interesting. Look, obviously, I mean, I'm a fan of Moser. Like I enjoy kind of like following the brand. I like the watches. Like the Pioneer is not the one that would be the one I would add to my collection, but we will obviously continue to cover them here and follow their their progress at Watches and Wonders, which is like I think one of the more interesting stories of the year. They came to the main hall of Watches and Wonders and issued a pump watch, with Reebok. So that is Moser in 2026,
and that's why they sold. That's why they did $100 million. Maybe next year they'll drop the Very when they're even more prominent in the main hall, and
then it becomes semi,
and then it'll just be like we're just kind of around. And I hope that I wish that success for the brand that they achieve. We're just kind of everywhere at this point.
Medium rare,
medium,
yeah. All right, let's do one more round, the speed round here of an additional watch that we reviewed. Ed, you have. I mean, I think we've got to go to the other Terra
talk
that you've been covering. You had the rare experience of reviewing two watches with Terra in the name. Tell us about the other.
That is very
rare.
Terra.
That is rare.
The other Terra, as presented by Stova. It's a fieldy field watch. Got a couple cool dial colors: forest, sand, and I closed the tab. It is soil.
There you go.
Good soil dial.
That's some Terra for you.
Brown as can be. No, this is cool. It's a field watch with a pilot twist, or is it a pilot watch with a field twist? And maybe you crash your plane into the ground, and that's where you wear this.
That's
but
dark.
no, it's really got a bit of an identity crisis. But at the end of the day, it is a cool watch, and I cannot find a single spec on this website. So here we go, 38 millimeters. It's a 38 millimeter field watch. It's got this blasted PVD coated case, so it's like pretty tough looking. It's very comfortable on the wrist. It feels solid, and it comes on this really interesting braided like nylon cordage strap.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of looks like one of the Apple Watch straps. I think they have like a similar braided cord that's very stretchy. So there's no buckle. It's just like stretchy fabric that you'd slip over your wrist, and then there is a tightening thing. But where it tightens up, like this is a thick fabric, and you've got 1, 2, 3 layers of it in some parts, and that is a little weird. But overall, it's comfortable. And like, you know, if you were like going camping with the dudes, you know, it'd be like a cool camping with the dudes watch, or like a hike, probably like a hike where you bring your nice camera.
With the dudes, hike?
With the dudes,
or,
you could do.
okay.
You could. I think you could do like a third date hike with this watch as well. You know, you don't want to do like. I don't think you'd first date a hike. It's like, let's go in the woods. Like it's not. It doesn't have that kind of
that's
menacing,
sketchy for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, that's not don't
true
do that.
crime vibe. Don't do that.
You say this with a background that is.
Yeah,
you know,
don't.
like,
yeah, this is the background here is
don't go into the
definitely
woods with Ed. Like,
No,
please.
no.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I don't want to tell that story. It was, you ever just like walking, and it's fine. You ever like walking somewhere in like a park, and
this
then
is being
there's,
recorded, Ed. This is a
that's
podcast.
fine. I'm not in
Just,
trouble.
you know.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Our first true crime episode. That's good.
Yeah, first one. Yeah, that'll blow this podcast right up. The big true crime pivot. No, like you ever walking out in public, and then like, you know, as a dude, you're like, oh, there's a woman on the path, and you like try to keep your distance to not like threaten someone, or like do you go for like the fast pass to be like, I don't, you know, like I'm very hyper aware of like if you're on the path with someone else, it doesn't always have to be a woman, but there was a woman enjoying nature on this warm winter day, and I'm like, do I just beeline it? Do I hang back? You know, I didn't have a Stova Terra on wrist to reference, you know, how much time I was lingering on the path for, but that was stupid. I don't have to talk about that at all. But it's just, you know,
wow.
hiking with the
What
dudes. You don't got to think about that when you're hiking with the dudes. Hey, you guys brought up the background, and it reminded me. The lady was a much faster hiker than I was. I was on my lunch break, and there's a preserve up the road, so she just beelined
where you're recording from right now. She's right
yeah,
behind you.
I'm actually here
Yeah.
right now. I've got a nice camera set up with the background blur. But yeah, hiking with the dudes, camping with the dudes, third date kind of watch. No, it is very cool though. It's like a good everyday piece. We got like orange accents. You got a little hours hand that points to a 24-hour scale on the inside of the dial. There's some mild sectoring going on. You got some concentric circles, a little slightly recessed 12 to 24-hour, you know, kind of ring in there. It's no BS here either. Just like a good outdoorsy EDC watch with a very comfortable strap. I like it. I dig it. I'll probably have more to say when I'm not put on the spot and can like take a minute, you know, but I'm also late in getting this into Zach because I said Monday, and
it is Monday. Well, you got a few hours to meet the deadline. But
It's not happening. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Absolutely. You've heard it here first. Unreliable as all get out. Just send me watches and they'll sit, and I won't review them.
Wow. All right.
What
I mean,
pitch.
we can just transcribe the hiking anecdote, and that can be your review, I think, of the Stova. If that anecdote doesn't make it into the review, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm, you know, as your editor, I'm expecting it to be part of the written review. Now that we've unclocked it. We had some audio issues. Hopefully we've cut around that. We've got Ed Jelley back.
I'm being censored in real time. I just want to say it. I'm being censored.
A long walk in the woods with his Stova. Thank you, Ed, for telling us all about the new Stova. We'll have that review on the website soon. If you are able to meet a deadline, which, you know,
we'll see.
Questionable.
Yeah, no, I'm all right. Usually, I think I get asked back. I'm here. How bad could it be? I mean, I know you were, you know, scrambling, but you know how
you're here, sort of. I mean, you went away for like 6 minutes, but
for better or worse,
you're back.
He's back.
Zach, well, you had a couple other watches in preview, but I wanted to specifically ask you about the Chrono Swiss that you had in for review. Just tell us, like, that review is forthcoming. I know you're in the process of
it's in process.
It's really high level. Like, tell us about the watch and when your kind of like very initial impressions.
Yeah, I mean, so the Chrono Swiss Pulse GMT, a watch I requested, it's definitely one of the stranger watches I've had in a long time. An integrated bracelet watch that is really a new direction for Chrono Swiss, which they needed. And I think, whether or not this is the right direction to be seen, I guess, by customers, but it's certainly an interesting one. So kind of like to take a step even back further, Chrono Swiss founded in the late 80s by Gerd Lang. They had a very classical, traditional style that was sort of his signature, sort of kind of bringing back that classic Breguet, early 19th century aesthetic, guilloche dials, things of that nature, but with a focus on some complications. Specifically, regulators were sort of very big for Chrono Swiss, and I think they even kind of credit themselves as being like the brand that brought that back to wristwatches. But they had other ones as well, retrograde seconds, jump hours, things of that nature. And, fast forward decades, the brand is under new ownership. And, for the last like up to when they released the Pulse line, which was 2 or 3 years ago now, they were doing things like they had a similar case as they had in the past, these like straight lug classic cases with big onion rings, but they went big onion rings, big onion rings.
It's lunch.
Somebody didn't have lunch.
Yeah. But with really out there colors and dials. So they like kind of like dropped the conservative pocket watch thing and went really kind of nuts with the colors that kind of look like this background here a little bit if you're seeing me, but like very vibrant. And, I think for a very specific audience, and I don't, they were intense. This new line is like sort of a step back in being conservative in some ways, and yet also much more futuristic and strange in other ways. So like you have this merging of aesthetics in the case with a sort of like biomimicry sort of bracelet. It feels very much like snake scales in, integrating into a straight sided case with fluted, like a slightly fluted bezel, which it also refers to the original. And then the dial and the complication are just really nuts. So Chrono Swiss made a watch called the Tora back in the day, which was their basically GM travel regulator. And it had the same layout as this. You had central minutes, central seconds, hours display at 3, and then a 24-hour display at 9. So you effectively had 2 time zones in a regulator. I think they're the only brand that has ever done this. And they brought that back with this new watch using a new proprietary movement co-developed with La Joux-Perret, which is a very pretty movement. And the dial is just a sculpture. It is like very 3-dimensional. It has rose engine turned guilloche in the middle. It's got these crazy dome sundials. Like everything on it curves in some way. It's just it's a very dynamic and intriguing watch that like it's just kind of like it's just a lot to take in, and it's like that's kind of where I am with it right now. It's like I don't know if I love it. I know I don't hate it. I don't know if I like love it, but it's like it's kind of captivating and very weird. It's made out of all titanium, all grade 5, which they completely blast, which is interesting, except for a couple little polished moments on the bracelet links itself. So, and it costs $20,000 or so. So it's like, they made a lot of really odd decisions with this watch. It's very avant-garde. It doesn't feel like they were making it for any specific customer. They just made the thing they wanted to make, which I can fully respect. And yeah, I don't know. It's just it's an intriguing piece.
Yeah, I'm also intrigued by Chrono Swiss and what they're doing. They're one of my favorite meetings at Watches and Wonders this year. They showed us the watch that you have. I saw like a prototype version of the watch that you have in for review right now, and they also showed us this like one of my favorite watches of the show, like a solid gold, fully engraved version of their rectangular jump hour watch with like the god Kronos like engraved in it. Just like a really, really like intricate, beautiful piece with some like great like hand engraving work. And yeah, they're doing some like really interesting things. I've always liked Chrono Swiss. I had a chance to kind of like to to try on the the production version of the watch that we have for review that you're reviewing, and was pretty impressed with it. I do like some of like that, like really kind of like avant-garde, like colorful stuff that they've done over the last few years. But like it's cool to see them kind of like getting a little bit more back to their roots. I think with something like this, it's just like maybe a little bit more classic. So yeah, very very cool.
It's like
stuff.
the least classic watch. It's
Yeah.
very strange because you
That's
see
a good
those
way to put it.
elements there, but then it's like nuts in every other way.
Yeah. Cool. So we will look forward to that review at some point in the future. The last watch I want to talk about is a watch that actually just dropped yesterday. It's a new collaboration between Selton and Watch Ho & Co. They had sort of like a viral limited edition drop a year ago with a watch that they called the Jui, or the Jew. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. Forgive me if I've made a mistake in the pronunciation. We'll link to it in the show notes. But there's a mother of pearl dial with a CNC machined like guilloche pattern, and it was about $1,000, and it was everywhere on Instagram for like a week, and it got me. I bought one, and I really like it. Like I wear it a lot, and the reason I wear it a lot is because it's just like it's just a really well made thing for like $1,000. Like the case is actually like surprisingly well finished. The dial's really dynamic and nice. I like a mother of pearl dial. I'm on record as being a fan of those dials. And honestly, like in like the $1,000 watch category, it's like among like the better purchases like I've made in the last few years. Like I really get a lot of enjoyment out of it. So this is the follow up to that. It's called the Yum Cha, and it's inspired by like dim sum basically, and like Hong Kong tea houses, and the dial is meant to evoke the bamboo steamer baskets that you'd see in like a dim sum environment. It's engraved in Grand Fu enamel, and it is very very beautiful in person. Like it is incredibly intricate. It is like a step up in every way from the watch they made last year, just in terms of like degree of difficulty and complexity. It has this like beautiful kind of like amber color to it with like brown gold hues. It's very very appealing. It's very nice. This one runs on a hand wound Solita movement. The one I have from last year is a automatic Miyota movement, which is obviously completely fine, but the Swiss movement is like a kind of like a step up in refinement to kind of go along with the with the added complexity of the dial. And it's a more expensive watch. This watch is a little under $5,000. It's a limited edition of I believe 100 pieces. So it's just quite a bit more ambitious in every way. But the thing that like obviously like the dial struck me, but the secret weapon of these watches is the Selton cases. Like they're just like very very nicely done and very very nicely finished and proportional and easy to wear. And that's something that's true like across the Selton line in my experience. Like they get a lot of they get a lot of press, including from us from time to time for their dial work. They are quite experimental and do a lot of like really cool things at an accessible price point, but like the cases are also like really really good. So I want to make sure like we put some shine on the case work there. Like they pay attention to like the little details and the finishing. And so yeah, I enjoyed this watch quite a bit. You'll see coverage on the website. It should be there now. As I said, it dropped. If you're listening to this on Wednesday, it dropped yesterday. Zach, did you get a chance to see this one while it was in the office? It was there for a short period of time.
But nobody tells me anything.
My God,
I didn't know.
Missed another one.
No, I missed another one. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Sounds very cool.
Yeah,
they're doing cool things. They're doing cool things. I included them in a video several months ago about watches that punch above their price point. Stand by that. They're doing some really cool stuff. Democratizing craft, if you will.
Yes.
Which
yeah,
maybe topic for another time, but like that's become so regular now. I almost wonder if it's starting to lose its charm, or not charm, but like
Impact.
prize value or impact is a good choice. Yeah, where like there's more and more brands, and there's I don't know, even a factory, CNC, or no, like a Rose Engine turd factory in China like contacted me because they say I have a brand. Like they're out there now. There's more and more of it kind of popping up. Yeah, like I said, topic for a different time. But like if it loses its impact, what will the net be?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, there's definitely, it feels like there's an appetite for this sort of thing, which is like, it's a good thing. That's that reflects positively on the watch community. I think that people like want, like handcrafted and traditionally crafted, things in their watches. It might mean that like people become more attuned to like what makes for like good craft, like really like higher end craft versus stuff that's done more, inexpensively or cheaply or quickly or done with shortcuts. So, there are like degrees to this, obviously. So yeah, but that is something that I think is worth exploring in the future. Zach, Ed, thank you for your reviews, for your contributions to this podcast, and for chatting with me today. It's good to kind of like get a high level look at some of the watches we've had in for review. We have a lot more coming in as well, more reviews, things we didn't talk about yet, on the podcast, things we can't talk about yet on the podcast because they're embargoed and we're not allowed to. But you'll see it all on the website, and we'll be back in another week for another episode of the Worn Around podcast. We appreciate you listening as always, and we will see you again in a week's time. Until then, take care.